So a very good morning and good afternoon to everyone joining our session today. Delighted to welcome Paul Cook, who's going to present today Virtual Speaking Success and Its Secrets. For those of you who joined us in the Knowledge Festival, you'll know Paul from last year, but delighted to have Paul with us. We are going to record today's session, so I will send you the recording afterwards, and we will upload it onto our webinar on demand page and the IAC YouTube channel. It gives me great pleasure now to hand over to Paul. Thanks, Paul.
No problem. Thanks, Kate. And yeah, you asked me earlier before we got going to introduce myself. I've been in events for, I don't know, too many years now in all sorts of guises. I actually came in from a risk management perspective. I was involved in ensuring films and TV productions, and then I found the world of events and conferences, and I've been there ever since. And I set up a content agency back in 2008, and the aim of that was to share content to help people with their events. So I interviewed all sorts of people, got all sorts of advice on what was going on in events, and latterly I got involved in virtual and hybrid events back in 2008, around that time. So I've been in this space for quite a while, but it's an area that I really enjoy. And yeah, thank you for having me on IAC today. So this will be a stop rather of virtual speaking. And I thought we'd get underway by understanding what some of the terminology means. And the reason I do that is because of a little tale I'll tell you all about one of my experiences in Australia. But quite simply, the terms in-person events, you can see people at an event, you can shake their hands, you can eat with them, you are in a physical space. So that's quite straightforward. In person, virtual, everything is online, just like we are today. There are people online. You've got me as a presenter online as well, and Kate as a host. And then hybrid events is a combination of the two. So you have two distinct audiences. One is going to be there physically at the venue, and the other audience is going to come in, and they're going to be online, and they'll just tap into to take part in that event. And the reason that I'm a big advocate of virtual events is because of that idea of inclusivity. They allow people that may not be able to get to a physical location to actually still take part in an event. So back to my little story in Australia, back in 2012, I was asked to if I would speak at an event, and I thought, yeah, great. It was over in Sydney, and I was going to go see some of my family out there. And then the chap said to me, no, we're not doing that. We're very sustainable. We are bringing in speakers from anywhere that's 50 miles or more are going to come in virtually. And they were doing this as part of their sustainability credentials. But it was my first kind of real glimpse of what virtual speaking was all about. And they asked me, they said, where do you want to be put in the program? And the program was over a weekend. And I said to them, well, just put me anytime, it doesn't matter. And at that point, my subject was risk management. And they put me in at 3 o'clock in the morning on a Monday morning before the UK week starts. And I was there, I was talking risk management to them. So I had to get myself into that mindset of, okay, I've got to be ready for this. I pretended that I was going for a flight. It was the only way of getting the body to work that well. And I also was asked to be in a panel, and the panel was taking place just over an hour later. And so I thought, okay, that should be right. But at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, that was really kind of difficult to keep awake. So there was lots of coffee going on. So when you are being asked to do a virtual event, it doesn't matter where it is, but find out where you are in the schedule and whether you are going to be needed later on. So that was the start of my journey, and what I do today is share some of my stories and some of my experiences with you. So one of the biggest differences between speaking in person on a stage versus on screen is simply the energy. Now, people will say it's because of the audience. You can see an audience when you're on the stage, and therefore you can feed off of that. Now, I kind of agree with that, but I also disagree a little bit as well, because some audiences you can see uh, people, you can see what they're doing, but if you get frowns, if you get people that are distracted and looking at other things, for a person on stage, it can be quite challenging. So I agree to a degree, if you like. But I was going to ask you to turn off your cameras. They're already off. So this is the kind of scenario that you will get if you are speaking virtually and you don't have anybody that you could see. And that happens a lot of the time because you can be broadcast out and you will see no participants. So uh, the only way that you know you're connected to anybody is that there would be a little icon, which is for the streaming company, and you would have their company, and that's basically it. So this is what you could see. The other big difference is that when you are speaking in person, you're on a stage, and whether that stage could be a boardroom, it could be a meeting room, but there will be activity going on around. There will be people that decide that they need to go and do something. They might need to go for a comfort break, or they might get up. There might be other things going on. So there's always some activity. But when you're speaking virtually, like we are now, there are no distractions. The only thing that I've got, well, the only thing you've got is me. That's it. There's nothing else between me and your view of me. So that means that when you are a speaker, you've got to be really mindful that there won't be all of these other things going on that could potentially distract any of your audience and give you some almost respite. You are the sole focus. And then the other big issue, of course, is that you are being streamed, you're being recorded, and your content will go outside of a venue. That's kind of inevitable, but that is another difference that there is between in-person speaking, where some of that content could actually stay in the room. So those are the kind of the key differences. But if you want to stand out, and if you want to be a really good speaker virtually, then I've boiled this down to the 3 Ps: the planning, preparation, and then the performance mindset. And when we come to planning, all you need to do is just be really easy to work with. It's simple, because you're not always going to be, it's not about you just being on screen. It's not about you being on stage. That's where it's kind of more easy. But where you are working with an event organizer, you need to be really good with them right from the outset. So what do we mean? Keep your promises, hit the deadlines, and deliver what they need. So when Kate asked me to do this a few months ago, she was very specific. She said, right, this is what I want in terms of a little bit of a description. I need your photo. Can you send those to me by this date, because I need to start emailing these out to people? And that's what we did. So give people exactly what they want. And if they've asked for your bio of 100 words, just do that. Just don't give your whole LinkedIn profile. Just give people what they want. And then you will immediately start to stand out as somebody that really knows what they're doing and is helpful to them, because that's all an organizer ever wants. Is this speaker going to be easy to work with? Do I trust that they're going to do what they say? Are they going to turn up on time for briefings? Are they going to be there for run-throughs and rehearsals? And can I trust that they're going to deliver what they say they will? That's the first element of the planning. And that means that you also need to understand where you're going to be speaking from and for how long. And that's where we start moving into preparation. So preparation is all about your speaking slot is basically a session. So when it comes to the design of that session, what's the outcome that the client wants from you, and how are you going to go and deliver that? And then research research the audience, find out who they are. Even if you've got general characteristics of a kind of their range, their age, their professions, or what they're interested in, because all of that is going to be really useful information, because that will help you design your slot and get a real understanding of how much time there is. How much time do you have? So understanding that is crucial, and then understanding how much of that you might want to give to questions is also something else as well that you need to take into account, and where you are in the overall program. So if you're on an event day program, where are you? Are you coming in right at the start of the morning? Are you coming in just after lunch? Where is the flow? What's going on? Because I think the more that you understand what's gone before you, and maybe you can listen into some of those sessions, the better it will be. So I knew that today, for this standalone webinar, we're coming in at the tail end in the UK, but morning over across the pond. So it's just really important to understand where the session is before you start working out what you're going to do with your people, because depending on that will determine what kind of session you want to do with them, whether it's going to be more of a workshopy, or whether it will be straightforward presenting, or whether it's going to be more of a debate, or whatever it is. But the more that you understand from your client exactly what they're looking for from your slot, the better it will be. And when it comes to preparing the content, slides can be great. I've got a few here, not many. I don't usually like using that many slides anyway. It's just my personal preference. But if you are using them and you've got a number of them, then think about the colors. Are they too light? Is it light on white that you've got? I've seen that a few times, which makes it quite hard for people to read. And do your audience, do they actually need a telescope to see some of the charts? I can't tell you how many charts and graphs and things I've seen over the years where they're put up and nobody can see them. And I just wonder about the use. So I'm always thinking, how is this going to help? Is this slide actually going to help? Because you don't need to do slides. Me and Kate again had a discussion prior to this and said, right, should I put slides? Would you like slides? Do you need them? And I decided, okay, we can break it up a bit, but you don't have to. If you have video and you want a video to be played in, that's fine, but please don't put it in a PowerPoint, because the first thing that a production crew will do is they will take it out. They will take it out of the PowerPoint because they need to play it separately. And now it all becomes very technical. I don't quite understand all the wizardry, but do separate them off. So give them the link or send them the video. And again, if the piece that you need is part of a video, give them the start time and the end time so that they play it. And what they'll be doing is they'll be switching back and forth between the PowerPoint slide, the video, and then maybe back to PowerPoint. If they give you a clicker and they tell you this is how they want you to operate a virtual clicker, then follow their directions, but get familiar with it before you start. This is all in the preparation. The more that you do this, the better it will be. Don't bring your own clicker, because that will just make a hindrance to what the tech crew are trying to do. And you can decide as well if you want to use, do you want to use scripts or prompts to help you? Now, I don't like using scripts, because to me, it feels like reading, and it feels like I'm going to be looking down at a page and my eye contact is gone. So I prefer little prompt notes. So I've got little notes where I can reference things. And I'm using prompt notes right now because there's a lot to go through. I don't want you to miss anything. And that's why I've decided to create a little deck that should be out of your line of visibility. So I prefer the prompts, and then I can work my way through those. And if you do decide that in your deck, you do want to put in questions, the number one question to you is why? What is the purpose of that question? How does it benefit the participants that are there? Time and again, I see questions go in and they're just fillers. They don't really give you any extra detail. But if you do ask questions, then do use that data that comes back. Always have a backup questions in case nobody asks you any questions, and especially if you've got a time to do that, because it could be a little bit dull otherwise if you think, well, no, any questions? No, no questions. Never mind, that's the end. Thank you very much. So always have one that you can call back on. And if you are playing music, then make sure that you've got clearance for that. That's where you'll need to check with a production company and just make sure, because otherwise you're basically infringing their copyright. Now, when we come to after we've worked out, okay, that's what the session is going to be, we then move into our performance mindset. And I use that word performance quite deliberately because I think you need to be, you can't do virtual speaking, in my humble opinion, if you're still polishing off emails about 2 seconds before you're due to go on and talk to the production people. It won't give you enough time to get yourself in the right space. But one of the key things I really want to pull out here is the difference between a run through and a rehearsal. Because what you may find, and what I found, is that event planners, organizers can use those two terms interchangeably, but they're not. So a run through is when you talk about all of the things, or when there's a discussion around what's going to go on in the session. So for example, on this, I said to Kate, right, we're going to have some PowerPoint slides. There won't be any video. We'll do questions at the end. That's basically going to be the way that it goes. That is a run through. That gives everybody a clear idea of what's happening. And if I'd had video, I'd say, right, I want you to play this at this point, or I'll play at that point. We're going to do something different with questions over here. And if there is a host, if there had been a host asking me questions that was physically on with me as well on another screen, we would go through that. So we go through the mechanics. So a run through is when you go through the mechanics of what you're going to do. Now, a rehearsal is when all the planning's done, when you've gone through everything that you're going to do, and you actually do it as if you were live. So I did this earlier today, and I went through and I timed it, and I needed to make sure that I wasn't going on too long, that I wasn't using words that would trip me up, all of those kind of things that go into a rehearsal. So a rehearsal is perfect for getting involved and knowing what's going to work and what isn't, and where you might need to cut stories, where you might need to add on to a bit because it doesn't quite flow. That's what we all work out in rehearsals. If you do a rehearsal and you do one, that's fine. Most of our clients like to do more than one, because what they find is they may be resistant to doing the first one, but by the time they get to the second one, they're already sounding better. And that applies whether we're talking virtual speaking or in-person speaking. And it also gives you a chance to listen to how you sound as well. And it can be a bit weird when you hear yourself back for the first time, but you do get over that. But it's all about that performance. So you know your timings, you know that you're not going to take extra time from other people, which is great. So when you go into the live performance, you just take all of the stuff that you did in rehearsal and put it into that live piece. Now, if you've got nerves on the day, that's great. Because I think if you don't have nerves, then there's something that's not quite right. If I haven't got them, then I worry because I haven't quite, maybe I haven't put enough into it. But what I won't do is I won't deviate from what I've got. At that point, everything is closed. I'm not going to put in new information unless it's hugely critical and has to be in there. And that has to be a bit of a major event. I always have water, hydrate, because you do drink more as you speak. It's just one of those things, and you don't want to get a voice that's not able to give you the sound that you want. And the time always goes quicker than you anticipate. It's amazing, but it flies by, absolutely flies. But this is where you don't panic, because you know that because you've already gone through rehearsal, because you've gone through timing, that you will finish on time or as agreed. And the other thing to remember is that you are in control. Nobody knows what you were going to say and what you might miss out. And nobody knows what you're going to say next. So you are absolutely in control. So there's nothing to worry about there. But going live is just bringing into play all of those things that you've rehearsed and run through before and timed. Now, I wanted to touch a bit on studio speaking skills, but before we get there, I want to just differentiate between an environment where we are now. So I'm in my home office, and my setup can be anything that I want it to be. So I know where you can see where the camera is. I've got that in position. We adjusted that earlier. I've also got some prompt notes. I've got a sign on my door, on the office door, that basically says live on air. My wife knows that I'm doing this presentation. So basically, she's not going to burst in with a cup of coffee. She's not going to knock on the door. Those things I'm in control of. I've also got a hardwired connection. So I've got a cable that goes into the internet, and we're not dependent on Wi-Fi. The things that I can't, and I've put the pets out as well. I've got a couple of cats. They are downstairs. They're not going to be trying to crawl all over me any second now. I've also decided that I want to be able to sit whilst I do this. I could stand, but I've chosen not to. And all of the notifications on the phone, they're all on silent. And I've closed off all the browser windows that I don't need, which gives me more bandwidth to use here as well. So all of those things you can do. And I've also got troubleshooting contact information by my side, so that if something did fall over, I've got somebody that I can contact. And I know what's behind me. I've got a blurred background behind me. That's on purpose, because you don't need to see all the other stuff that's there. Some people do come on camera and they will have plants, or they're washing, then it's all just hanging out of chairs, and it's an immediate distraction. So always think about your environment and how it looks. The things that you can't control, things like deliveries and doorbells, but unfortunately, that is just part of the life that we're in at the moment. But if you're in an office, you shouldn't get those kind of issues. So that's a home, and you can set up, you can have all your notes all around you. I've got a little file here. I could have notes on either side of where that you couldn't see, that I could see, and I could be looking at those as well. It might feel a bit weird because I'm looking from one side to the next. But the point is, I'm in control of my environment in the same way that you're in control of yours when you're at home or in an office. Now, when we go to a studio, or when you're speaking from a studio, you're not in control. That's one thing. You're in a team, and you're in a team and it's more obvious. So there will be people around. You can see them twiddling dials and setting lights and those kind of things. So it's more obvious. I know Kate is here, but I can't see her, and I don't have any other physical bodies around. So I need to be, and in a studio, I have to be a really attentive listener. I'm not saying I'm not here, but I have to be more so, because a studio, they've got different things going on. It becomes a little more tense, a bit more formal, because it is, and you are outside the zone that you know. So you're outside your environment, and you'll be working with people that you may not have come across before, probably unlikely. And the studio will also have other time pressures, because if they're not recording or streaming, they may well be editing. So you've really got to listen to their briefings. My advice: arrive in good time. Never run in last minute in an anxious state, because that's not going to be a good look. Make sure that you know as much about the studio as you can before you set off. So I was I was facilitating a session a few years ago, and I arrived at the studio and I knew that I had to park on a meter. And because I knew that, I had changed to put in the meter. If I hadn't rang the studio and said, "What's your parking like?" I would have never known, and then I would have struggled. So always get as much knowledge as you can about where that studio is, because they come in all shapes and sizes, and you may need to pay, you may need to walk some distance before you get there. You may be on part of an industrial estate, which was the case with me. So always arrive in good time, plan the route, know that you're there, because it's all new to you. And before you set off as well, it's also advisable to know what the studio setup is going to look like. So what's going to be available to you? Is there going to be a lectern? Are you going to use it? Do you want to use it? Or will you be sitting on a sofa? Can you use an iPad with you? Or is that something that you prefer not to? You want to use paper notes? Every one of us is different in a way that we work these things out. Find out if there are maybe comfort monitors. Sometimes there'll be a comfort monitor in front of you that will give you any slide that you've got and the next slide to come. And that slide that's to come can't be seen by anybody else but by you. And it might also have a countdown clock on there as well, so that you can see how much of your session you have left. So find out what the setup is going to be and what you're going to be involved in, because I'm sitting here talking to you now, which is fine. If I anticipate that I'm going to get exactly the same if I go to a studio, I could end up with a problem, because suddenly I've got nowhere where I can put these notes potentially, especially if I'm sat on the couch being interviewed. So just get to know what you're working with, because that will be invaluable. And make friends with the crew, because they want to put you in the best light. They want you to sound amazing, because that's their job, and they are there to help you. And they've seen so many speakers come through that they can do just that. But a studio, not to be scary, but it is just a different environment to get used to. Another little drink it. So when it comes to things that can go wrong, things can go wrong, and they do go wrong. But that's where you want these shortcuts, these hacks that are going to help you out. So I think the main thing that I'd say is just stay calm. So even if you are, even if you are a virtual speaker, as I was in Australia, I had the contact information of the crew. I knew that I could get back in touch with them, and they are the people that you need, not the event planner, because they are going to be doing other things. But they will know that there's a problem before you do, because they're looking at all of the dials, all of the kind of meters and everything else that they've got going on, and they will be aware that you have just fallen off. Maybe your internet connection might have gone, and they will be advising you what to do next. So just keep calm and take your instructions from them. It's always useful if you've got to have a back channel like a WhatsApp. WhatsApp we use for loads of productions, just to get hold of certain people and say, "Oh, by the way, this has just happened," and they'd probably say, "Yeah, we're fixing it now," or whatever. But it is invaluable, because it doesn't make any sound, because you put these things on mute. But know that they are going to help you get you back online as soon as possible, and follow their advice, and trust them, because they've been doing this a lot longer, and it's what they do day in, day out. Now it sounds obvious, but we had a client one time that decided that they weren't going to show up for speaker briefings. 2 people out of 30 showed up, and then on the day of the production itself, there were a few issues and they fell over, and a couple of them started to argue with the crew, which to my mind was just a bit crazy, because the production crew are there to help you out, and just listen to what they're going to say and what they do, and whatever they've sent you as links to use them. Don't argue with them. And if they're going to count you back in again, they will do that. You never count yourself in because you can't. You're not in control of that situation. And some speakers will say, okay, look, you've fallen off, but that's okay because you've sent them maybe a pre-recorded video of the session that you were going to do. And I've been thinking about this recently because it kind of works, but it doesn't. So say, for example, we're 15 minutes into a 30-minute presentation and the speaker falls over. You can't then take their pre-recorded video and just play it because your schedule is going to be out. So I think the best thing that a speaker can do is send in a pre-recorded highlights video of their main points of their session. Maybe that's anywhere between, say, 3 minutes to 5 minutes. So you're giving the planner something that they can use and they can play in, even though their speaker has disappeared. And the speaker may not always get back in because the schedule keeps moving. And it might be that there's a big issue and they've got a problem with their computer that they're using, so they can't get back in. And you would, by having that speaker come in at the same point, it would throw off all of the rest of the schedule. So that's why you need to be working with the production company. And the production company are basically the guys and the girls that put together the audio and the visuals, so video and PowerPoint, and they switch between these things. But they're lovely people and they will help you get on, but it's best not to argue, I would say, with them. And that is my whistle stop even of virtual speaking. And it has been quick. I mean, I've written a book on this subject, as you can see, and it's one of those things that I just decided to write. I wrote it because I just felt that all of the experiences that I'd had over the years, I wanted to share with people. I just wanted to make them available to anybody that was speaking virtually as to how they could do a really good job. And I think that this is more important than ever now, not only because of the opportunities that are there already. So you can be a virtual speaker where you don't need to be seen on camera. You could speak behind slides, you can do that. You may be a virtual speaker that's taken in to do some work on podcasts. Not every podcast has to be a visual, so some of the time you're going to need to come across by just being a voice behind, and sometimes maybe on company meetings. Not everybody is going to see you, so you will just be a voice there as well. So I think with the hybrid and remote working that we've got going on, with the geopolitical changes, with companies that are concerned about their sustainability creds, this just opens up the opportunities of people that want to be able to speak virtually. And I think the key is to be that reliable person, be that person that people can depend on to deliver what you say you're going to deliver in the time scale as well. So I would love any questions if we've got any questions. And yeah, that's it. Oh, if anybody does want to connect in with me, feel free. You'll find me if you type in Paul Cook. I think I'm number 7, or Planet, you will get me, or Supercharge Your Virtual Speaking, or through Kate, if you want to.
Thanks, Paul. Have we got any questions, thoughts, feedback?
They're shy.
Well, I thank you very much, Paul, for today. For those still on the call, I will send you the recording afterwards. But if you do think of any questions afterwards or would like me to connect you to Paul, please reach out and I will do that for you. But I wish you the best rest of your day and hope to see you on a webinar very soon. Thanks, everybody.